Kansas is one of those places in America that I don't want to say that time has forgotten. It's just that if you don't think that rural America exists, you haven't traveled very far. And southeast Kansas is really, really special. Everything is big here. Big farms, big cattle industry, big farm fields, and big whitetails, and that's what we're here for.
Kansas is known as the land of Oz, and it creates great memories for many. But to some of us, one thing stands out: big bucks. I'm Brittany Jill, and this is Destination Whitetail.
Kansas is known as the Sunflower State, and traveling through parts of it can really help you understand why. Massive agricultural fields span across the horizon, and the open country offers shelter belts and homesteads for cover among the grasslands. The mix of crops and natural vegetation offer the deer population here ample nutrition. But the topography differs greatly across the state. Mule deer are prominent out west given the layout of the high plains and smoky hills. Whitetail numbers increase as you continue east to the natural woodlands, where the habitat is more suitable for them. Their highest density is found in the eastern third of the state. Selective management and excellent genetics have yielded a very healthy deer herd with trophy potential in virtually all areas. Despite the fact that it's 95% privately owned, there are still great options for public hunting if one does their research. And of course, there are scores of outfitters ready to guide your hunt for trophy whitetails and mule deer. Kansas offers quite temperate conditions given its geographical location. Fall and winter are fairly mild, so hunting is usually done without the need for very heavy clothing. In fact, extensive heat can actually become a bigger issue here. That's the case for both hunts featured today on Destination Whitetail. Dan Schmidt is in the fields of southeast Kansas. Mark Kaiser is hunting the Flint Hills of north central Kansas. These are very different areas at very different times. Dan is hunting the post-rut in early December, while Mark is in the pre-rut of early November. But the unseasonably warm temps are one thing these trips have in common.
And here I was in Kansas, hot, sweaty weather, trying to figure out a pattern. The deer, they were beginning to show some daylight activity, but most of the activity was still at night. They didn't want to be out too much past that daylight time period because they're wearing their fur coats.
First morning in Kansas, it's kind of unusual. It's December 9th. And even though we're bundled up this morning, it's not that cold. It was 40 degrees when we got out here this morning. We saw quite a few deer already, a lot of does, a couple small bucks. But we're in an area here where it's just a bunch of fingers of cedars coming up, and it's a great travel corridor. Really excited about this hunt. We're here with Extreme Outfitters in southern Kansas. They got some big deer down here, and hopefully we're gonna see one in the next couple days.
Destination Whitetail is brought to you by Browning Trail Cameras, by Thompson Center, America's master gunmaker, by Analogics, protect your herd with the power of science, by Sever Broadheads, straight through it, Alps Outdoors, exceed your expectations, and by Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable.
With the push of a button, the new Oracle range-finding bow sight from Burris instantly calculates the exact distance and angle to your target and provides an aiming dot to take the guesswork out of making that shot of a lifetime.
This is Kansas. As is this. As is this. Located in the Great Plains of the Midwest, Kansas is a bit of a chameleon when it comes to topographical features. The rugged high plains out west bear little resemblance to the farm fields of the southeast, and the Flint Hills to the north offer up wooded canyons and river bottoms that are an altogether different sanctuary for wildlife. The one thing that these all have in common is trophy deer. Thanks to superior habitat, sensible management, and world-class genetics, Kansas is nothing short of a deer hunter's paradise.
Today we're going to visit some stellar hunting ground that harbor bucks with world-class genetics that have become a hallmark of Kansas. You're not going to want to miss this.
For Mark Kaiser, it's not only the bruiser whitetails, it's hunting with good friends.
It's my favorite place to come during the rut. Great friends, great whitetail hunting, and a lot of shenanigans in between all of that.
Mark is hunting with his friend Greg Gilman, who owns and manages some 500 acres of Whitetail Paradise.
I probably got 25 stands up. A lot of them I don't use hardly at all, but you just always, you see a tree sometime, you're driving by, you go, that's a perfect place for a stand if the wind's out of this direction.
But he can't just count on Mother Nature to provide for his herd. Greg also works hard at developing food plots to keep the bigger deer on his property.
The one thing I think I've learned through the years as far as food plots is try to put a variety in, because some years some things don't grow good as others. You don't know what the rain's going to do, what the weather's going to bring. So I try to get a variety, and the deer, they just go from one to the other. And I make a variety of bigger food plots and smaller food plots.
Everyone's concerned about getting huge, big food plots. But what happens when you have a huge food plot? Well, the deer can spread out, and if you're archery hunting, you can't always get a good shot. That's why a small, hidden food plot like this, that's barely an acre in size, but you can shoot it from one side to the other, and the deer, yeah, they're gonna show up here, because there's stuff like this everywhere. It's a mixed food plot. Turnips, sugar beets, a little bit of clover, just a little bit of everything. So at any time of the year, the deer, they can come here and recharge, and you can hit a little spot like this and smoke the best deer of your life. Kansas, it's not only a mecca for big whitetails. Check out Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young, but it's also becoming a proving ground for deer management across the United States. It's kind of like a little Texas. Food plots in every corner where farming is available. Good water management, good refuge management, and I'm hoping we're gonna see some good results because of it. I knew that despite the heat, these deer would begin to move a little more in daylight. They just had to. It's in their nature. They have to move in the pre-rut because, well, their testosterone says they have to. They did start to show up. In fact, they came so close I could have reached out of our ground blind setup and touched a few, but the bucks, they were no-shows. On the second day, we went to our riparian zone, an area I really like. It's heating up, literally and figuratively. What I mean is the temperature's heating up. This morning we got in the stand about 47 degrees. I'd like to see it about 37, maybe even 27 to keep those whitetails a little bit more supercharged in the mornings. We're in the pre-rut. It literally could break out any minute, and that's why I mean figuratively. The temperatures, they're gonna get close to 80 degrees today. That's not good for the rut. But because the pre-rut is kicking in, we're gonna have these windows, basically dawn and dusk. They're a little bit too bulked up to be doing a lot of cruising when it's 80 degrees. So what do you do in the midday? Well, we're gonna check some cameras. We've got a camera here. We're gonna go look at some other areas and see if we need to put some stands up. So use your time wisely when it's hot out.
Coming up, we check in with Dan Schmidt, who's hunting the post rut in southern Kansas.
It's going to get up in the mid-60s. It's December 9th. That's unusual. So, you know, the feed pattern is going to be thrown off a little bit. Hopefully we're going to catch one of these big bucks heading to or from their bed. Should be a good hunt.
Dan Schmidt is hunting the cropland of southeast Kansas, courtesy of Extreme Hunts.
We do have approximately 15,000 acres, and it's not all consolidated in one farm, but we're stretched over Bourbon and Crawford counties.
You know, I know how big that is, and I know it's not all one contiguous piece, but to manage 15,000 acres, that can't be easy.
They utilize a complete mineral program in addition to food plots and CRP. So needless to say, the trophy potential is off the charts here. Like Mark, Dan is facing some unusually warm weather, but he's seeing plenty of deer so far and hopes it's simply a matter of time.
It's going to get up in the mid-60s. It's December 9th. That's unusual. So, you know, the feed pattern is going to be thrown off a little bit, but we're in a good travel corridor here. A lot of fingers of woods coming up and meeting, a lot of bedding areas. Hopefully we're going to catch one of these big bucks heading to or from their bed, either later this morning or later this afternoon. Should be a good hunt.
Got him. He's going down right there. We got him. We got him. We got ourselves a good Kansas buck, buddy. I don't know how many times I say it, but you wait and you wait, and it happens just like that. We knew that was a buck bedding area, and the wind was coming right to us. We had a food plot right here. We just had 6 does come through. They got a little jittery and they kept going. They didn't blow. But lo and behold, we look up and here comes 2 really nice bucks. That first one was wounded. He's a big 8-pointer, he's mature. And I'm really happy I got him. He has an 8-pointer with a busted brow tine. He is just a beauty. He had an injury. Oh, look at, he's got a big club foot. He was wounded, and I knew he was a mature buck. And I'm just happy to have him. It's nice when it happens on the first day like that. You know, you have a deer come in and it just makes all the effort and the time all worthwhile. This was a true cull buck. This buck had a big club foot the size of a large softball. He was either going to succumb to winter, the weather, or predation, namely coyotes. So many coyotes down here. So that in itself right there would have been a good cull buck. I just shot him because I want to put him out of his misery. I don't want to see an animal suffer, and I think we did the right thing.
Of course, like most outfitters, they feed their hunters like kings.
We are having steaks. These are ribeyes, I believe, and some kind of very good-looking sausage.
The camaraderie of eating meals together and all the comforts of home make this lodge a perfect getaway for hunters after a long day in the field. But Extreme Hunts also helps the community.
Like, for instance, the 4th of July, if you will, we came back and we were having some events, and we would get involved with them, and we would buy pigs and we'd buy their cattle, and then we'd turn around and give it back to them, you know, and just to let them understand that, you know, we're here trying to help. Another thing that we do here with the community is we've gotten involved with just a couple local guys like Bob and Billy and Joe, and they all know each other, and it's nothing that is on paper or solicited or marketed, but they are the guys that will take someone's deer, and they have a list of people, and that's the families that they want to feed.
Well, that's really admirable that you guys do that. I mean, it helps everybody out, and you keep your neighbors happy, and everything's going to be good.
Yeah, that's right.
Destination Whitetail is brought to you by Decked. Work smarter, play harder. Scent Killer Gold with Hunt Dry Plus technology. Apply it, dry it, and go hunt. By 10 Point Crossbow Technologies. There is no substitute. Get armed and deadly with Easton FMJ arrows. By Sig Sauer Electro Optics. Never settle. And by Matthews Archery. Mark Kaiser is putting in his time in the Flint Hills of Kansas. It's the pre-rut, and the temps have been too hot to trigger deer movement. After a few days on stand, no shooters had shown up in the daylight.
Back at camp, Greg had a whole new plan. We were just gonna dump the spots we'd been at. They were good spots, and try another farm. His buddy Kenny had a place that just looked ideal from the topographical maps. It had great fingers of cover, food plots interspersed around it, and, well, it seemed to be some deer that wanted to show up in daylight, according to the trail cameras. The next morning, that wind was howling. It was as high of gusts that had been at any time the last day and a half. I got up in the tree, harnessed in, sat down, and within seconds, deer started showing up on the field. Now it was dark, I had to use my binos to kind of check them out. I didn't see any bucks right away. It didn't take long though for bucks to show up when they were chasing the does around despite the wind. So I was beginning to feel like maybe this could happen. I didn't have to wait long. Some of the other bucks started showing up and they kind of pooled up at the far end of the field and the bucks all interacted. While all this interaction is occurring at the far end of the field, guess who's beginning to show up right under my stand again? The ladies. And guess who started to take notice? Yep, those bucks saw the ladies over there, and here they came. Who led them? My buck. At least I was calling him my buck then. The big buck was walking across the field right at me. He was ready to be a charmer with the ladies. I had the range perfect. I set my HHA sight. That buck was walking in just like a choreographed play. He came straight at me, got in line with those does, turned broadside, and when he did that, I was already at full draw with my Matthews. And when he stopped for a second, I didn't hesitate and I dropped the string. Things exploded like they always do. The buck bolted as fast as he could. Then he dashed into some tall grass. That shot looked good. I feel good about the shot. He was slightly quartering to me, but I had just enough broadside and I slipped it in right at the shoulder, I think. I looked down, and there in the middle of the food plot lay my arrow. There's the arrow. It blew right through him. It's laying right there, and it is soaked end to end in good, dark blood. I'm jacked up. I'm trying to get too jacked up until we touch antlers, but I feel good about that shot. Nevertheless, I pulled myself together and said, we're gonna wait this one out. 30 minutes minimum, then we'll get down, start up the trail, and find our buck. Early this morning, right at shooting light, we finally found some luck in Kansas. A big bruiser. He looks like a 5x4, maybe with a kick or so. And this buck came down the edge of this food plot. Yeah, whitetail hunters, you know food plots, that's where it's all at these days. Here's the arrow right here. Looks good, good blood, complete pass through. The deer was slightly quartering to me, but pretty much broadside, 23 yards. We're gonna go see if that buck is laying in some Kansas tall grass. One of the great things about tracking blood trailing anyway in Kansas is the big blue stem. We're in the tall grass prairie of the Flint Hills. And this stuff, well, it's taller than me in most instances. Now, I'm no NBA player, but I can even find blood in this, and I'm colorblind. And I think that deer is close because there's a lot of sprayed blood up and down this trail. Whoa, I see the flag of surrender ahead. I think it's the white of the deer. In fact, I know it's the white of the deer, so I put an arrow on just in case. But I think he's already waved that he's given up the game. Oh. Wow, if this isn't a Matthews moment, and I'm gonna take a few Matthews minutes here, look at this, a giant Kansas whitetail, just what I've been looking for. And we've been putting in our time here. Are you ready? Look at that buck. Good mass, great mass, beautiful tine length. His brow is even broke right here, otherwise it'd probably match this one almost exactly. This is what you come to Kansas for. The rut is just starting to go. No does are in heat yet, or maybe just the occasional one. But the bucks, they've got a testosterone load like you can't believe. Right here this is one of my top whitetail bucks. He'll go in my top 3, 4, 5 bow kills ever. I'm just happy to be here in Kansas.
So no matter if you're hunting on private land or with an outfitter, you'll find Kansas to be one epic destination for whitetails.